Hi all, my name is Matt. I'm from the PwC Cyber team in Melbourne. Come up to speak with you guys today to talk you through a bit of Cybersecurity 101 and tell you a bit about the team and what we do. So first off, we've got a Menti, and you're probably familiar with some of these from other sections, but feel free to jump on this now. I can put the QR code up a bit later if you're needing it. 3, 2, 1, there we go. All right, so we'll kick off with a bit about the threat landscape. Now, show of hands if we can, who has seen these sort of descriptions before in any other cyber things you've done or any kind of other learning? A little bit? Yeah, cool. So these are sort of some of the categories we use to describe the threats that organizations receive and where they come from. So espionage, think a spy movie. People trying to find out things for potentially state gains, so like governments spying on companies or other governments. Hacktivists is primarily individuals or groups of individuals for a cause, so like an environmental cause or something of that nature, political as well. Criminal, you're looking at some of the scam attacks, more sophisticated scam attacks like ransomware, looking after money, as in looking for money, and yeah, that's their primary motive. And then sabotage, you've got things, you might have heard of Stuxnet, so that was a attack on an Iranian refinery of nuclear material, wanting to impact another, usually a nation state's facilities and destroy some of their capability. So usually most things can be grouped into these. Some things are a bit harder based on attribution, which is a very difficult task, like working out who has done an act, but these are our broad categories. So then we take those categories of motive and we layer them on top of the attack types. So you might have some ransomware, so some malicious code, people might call it a virus or malware as well, is put onto computers, and in this case it encrypts the data on those computers and stops the business from functioning or a system from functioning. Think about if this might impact like a school or something like that. They might not be able to teach their students, which is sort of not a different risk to if it impacts a power plant, for example. You might not be able to generate power and it turns all the power off in Sydney, for example. Supply chain, now you might think about that from a shopping center type supply chain, but this is usually related to code and code pipelines. So if you're able to steal code, you might find some trade secrets, you might find some passwords and stored credentials in that code, which you can then use to exploit further systems. Or you might be able to influence and inject code into those systems and take them over or something like that. Think again in a power plant example, or like Stuxnet, where you've got the code implanted into the environment and you're able to control that and potentially mask your intrusion as well, depending on the sophistication. Also using current affairs as bait, so you would have gotten a lot of text messages recently, like trying to get you to click on a link related to a package or your toll invoice or something like that. This is also linked with some of the current affairs happening at the moment. So like maybe they might be targeting people who have had a problem with the Optus breach or something along those lines. Really targeted messages that make people panic in a way, and they bypassed some of their thinking around, is this a safe thing to be clicking on? Social engineering, calling up a help desk of a company and saying, hi, my name's John Smith, and they've worked out that John Smith is an employee at this company from LinkedIn. I just need to reset my password. It's my first day, I'm really sad about that, I'm sorry. And sort of guilting people into it, and it's surprisingly effective. Got some very interesting stories about our attacks using that. And the year of the 0 day. So 0 days are new vulnerabilities that haven't been publicly sort of known about or patched yet. And if you think back to some of the more recent ones, Log4j was one of them, where this huge exploit in a Java framework was publicized, and anyone using that framework in their public applications was able to be hacked and to varying extents. But yeah, it's really a very popular time at the moment. There's never been more 0 days in the last few years of the same sort of impact. So the advertising spiel earlier said 3 ways to protect yourself. So we're primarily talking about protecting organizations in our day-to-day work, but that also includes protecting the executives and the staff members of those organizations. And these are some of the things we tell them. Using strong and unique passwords, preferably with a password manager. We'll get more into that later. Where possible, enable MFA, preferably with an app or a token. So some of you might have seen like a Google Authenticator app or a YubiKey. We can talk about those a bit more later. Like a hardware token that you plug into your computer. Those are much better than an SMS. There's attack methods where you can steal someone's phone number, like SIM card swapping effectively. If you use like a social engineering attack at Telstra or Optus and you say, oh, lost my phone, need a new SIM card, then people are able to take those SMSs. Sometimes you're also able to edit phone numbers in applications and change where that message gets sent. So the apps are more of a bi-directional mechanism that's a bit more secure. Similarly with the hardware tokens, they're usually certificate-based or something a bit more secure there. Also, obviously being mindful of your online presence and enabling cybersecurity settings and privacy settings. One of the more interesting things we can do sometimes is going on LinkedIn, going on Facebook, Instagram, and figuring out all about people. And it's not just you as employees of a particular organization. It might be your family members and everything like that. What could be used? Say you had some things that I really wanted to find out. What leverage could I have over you by learning things about your family members? It can get that serious when we're talking to some of our executive panels. You're talking like top ASX companies. They know some serious market impacting information that could be wanted by some of those external actors. It does sound a bit like a spy movie, but it is real, unfortunately. So yeah, a bit more on digital footprint. Be mindful of what you share online, obviously. Live locations and daily activities. Save the story for when you get home. Don't accept requests from people you know on LinkedIn. So this is a tricky one, particularly for those looking for jobs soon. Recruiters and stuff come in on LinkedIn. There's a lot of legitimate recruiters, but it's very easy to create a LinkedIn profile that looks like a recruiter. You can make something up, get into past the first level of privacy settings where people are a bit more familiar with sharing things with their friends and everything like that. And you can get more data that way from like fake LinkedIn, Instagram accounts, that sort of thing. Obviously, we're back at the password requests password strength and MFA and the privacy settings again. So what I'll do here is I'll pause for a moment. Some of you might have seen the Menti questions already, and I hope you've responded very positively to that first one. We've got a bit of a Q&A section in there. So this is just sort of an anonymous, I hope it's anonymous, Q&A thing. And we can go to proper Q&A questions a bit later if you want to have a bit of a chat. We've got a mic that we can do that with then. So I'll flick across there now. So yeah, awesome that so many of you are super excited. That's great. Can't wait. Highlight of the week. That's awesome. We've got, let's see if we can proceed here. There we go. No questions about that. So I'll give you 30 seconds if you want to put a bit of an anonymous question in there. We can do that. We'll give that, 20, 30 seconds. And I'll go in a bit later into what we're sort of doing at PwC a bit more. And so happy to answer any questions of that nature as well. Also, I've been with the firm 7 years, so happy to answer any of those kind of what happens in the firm sort of questions. There you go, average day at the firm. So for me, I'm a manager at the moment, and I'm across several jobs. So my normal day starts with a few check-ins with my teams, a few stand-ups, and we go through and talk about what's on for the day, what we did yesterday, that sort of thing. And then it usually kicks into half-hour meetings with some work blocks between those, where I'm catching up with clients, usually virtual at the moment, though I'm going out to client sites a bit still, and working out sort of what their plan is for the current piece of work, what they're looking at next. I was at a client site on Thursday last week, and we were talking about our our extension and everything like that. So that's sort of what some of the managers do in that way. Some of the other team members that I'm working with, like I'm on a couple of security monitoring jobs at the moment. So reading alerts, responding to alerts, saying, okay, so this client has had these alerts come up on their system. Are they under attack? Is it a legitimate alert that we're seeing? Do we need to start an incident response element, a team for that? Yeah, we can. What can we do there? So we've got a couple advice for someone that wants to enter a career in cyber. Get some. So that everyone sort of might be chasing certs. Those are great. I think an understanding of like cloud environments is even better. If you can have a conversation and not just say, oh, here's the cert, but if you're able to have a proper conversation and engage on something, that's really useful as well. And also going to a lot of the meetups. Like we've got Sec Talks that we participate a lot in. I think they still hosted in the office here. Other things like Sec Talks are really good. Meet people in the industry, add them on LinkedIn once you've met them, that sort of thing. Grow your networks. That's a huge thing that you can work on. Internships. Yeah, you're lucky in Sydney here that there's a lot of tech companies that need people like you guys, because the cyber and tech teams are always maturing and moving around. There's always going to be a need for more internships. They're needing more people from the bottom. Ask around a lot, develop those networks through Sec Talks and everything like that. We've got a number of internship options here. We call them vacationers or IBLs. Yeah, expand those networks. It's interpersonal relationships are really important for some of these things. I'll answer that one. In terms of password security, is having Google Chrome and iCloud to save the passwords out of convenience good or bad thing? Better than having all of the same passwords regularly used elsewhere, but a dedicated password manager is a bit better, and I've got another slide on that one. Probably need to get to, but yeah, this is a mid ground, I would say, in terms of we use the term like a maturity score sort of thing often. So 0 maturity might be single password you use everywhere that's awful. Extreme maturity might be sort of single sign-on type stuff that enterprises would use. I'd rate this probably for a personal level like 2 or a 3, and then there's a couple of other things you can do beyond that. So we'll come back to this one. The next one you would have seen is a bit of a password security thing. So make up a strong password, and we can sort of talk through some of the good and bad things. Don't put in any of your real passwords, please. That has happened. And don't go ridiculous length. I think we can all write a sentence if we really wanted to, but come up with something that's easily memorable and usable on a day-to-day basis. So some things that you might not want to have in a password manager that you actually want to remember. Like sometimes you might want to remember your iCloud one, for example, when your phone asks you and you can't swap apps to the password manager and stuff like that. So you might have a few that you want to remember in addition to your password manager. So we'll see if any of those have come through. Cool. Have we got, oh no, those are questions. Has anyone submitted one, or is it just not showing any? No. So we'll switch back here. These are some of the sort of building blocks you might use. So one thing I like to do for longer passwords is almost have a sentence that is a bit ridiculous, like a large blue walrus or something, and then you put in some spaces between them, or alternate characters like your symbols and numbers and stuff like that. Fiddle with the case as well, so you can then remember, oh, my Google password is a large blue walrus, and then you can go and sort of remember that a lot easier than 17 characters of meaningless automatically generated content. So other things that you might be tempted to use is stuff like your dog's name or your initials or first name or something like that. That kind of stuff is the first thing that brute forces will try. And yeah, we want to try and avoid those if possible. Brute forcing is when people are guessing hundreds of thousands of passwords and looking for possible options. So we're trying to avoid that. Yeah, cool. So that's that might be meaningful to you, but that could be just a random string as well. That would be good as an option, actually both of these, but hard to remember if you're looking for a large number of passwords. This one, yeah, sort of a bit of an interpretation of chocolate there, that works. And this one as well, yeah. Some of my passwords look a bit more like this. Maybe not including my employer name, but yeah, that's my normal sort of thing there. But these ones of a longer length as well are good to store in your password manager, because you let the password manager deal with it. You might go 20 characters or something, 30 characters doing those. All right. So yeah, these are a couple of tips about using password managers. Don't reuse. The benefit of a password manager is everything can be unique. Make sure it's over 14 characters if possible. Some things limit it. Don't use single dictionary words, like don't just make your password shark or something like that, or street address, anything like that. And yeah, use your password manager. I am not providing specific advice on which password manager to use, but these are some password managers. The one I use is on that list, so good luck. Multi-factor authentication, I'll zip through this a bit because you're all going to be familiar with it, but it's something that you really need to get using as much as you can and get your family members and colleagues using as well, because a lot of people just skip it at the moment, but it's when an attacker is coming into an environment, they're going to pick the easiest method. And if you can put MFA on your account, but someone else doesn't have it, they might use that alternate method there. So it's really using multiple things, like a password that you know, plus something that you have, like your phone or something to generate a token. Alternatively, something you are as well. Those of you that have done sort of comp sci sort of things will know that sort of three types of cyber thing. Physical tokens like YubiKeys, those are fantastic. It's just a USB stick that you plug in, but you have to have it to log in. It's like a certificate-based authentication. Randomized pins through apps and stuff like that as well. Obviously, the biometrics and fingerprints on your phone, you'll have seen like a Face ID type thing. And email and SMS if you have to, if that's the only option. Try not to store them both on one device, for example. Like if you have a password manager that also does 2FA, that's not a second factor of authentication if your password manager does both for you. Awesome, so a bit about what we do in the firm. Within the cybersecurity team nationally, we've got just under 400 people. And we're split into 4 capabilities. And you'll see some of our clients here. Pretty much a lot of the ASX 200 are people we work with, or we're excluded from working with due to our friends in the audit team. So there's a lot of variety in what we do, and we work in every industry and that sort of thing. I'm in the cyber threat services team, specifically in defensive and IR. And I work on security operations, incident response, and we do a bit of threat intel in that as well. Cloud architecture and automation is working on deploying cloud-based solutions and architecting them for big companies. Say that a large company wants to install a new application, we help them do that securely. Offensive, that's where the pen testers or the hackers sit. We work together in a blue team, red team engagement, purple team sort of engagement, where they hack something, we fix it. Cycle repeats. Those are some of the more fun ones. Identity and access management, critical part of the organization for any large organization is the login that all the staff use, managing the access to all the individual applications. Some large companies have upwards of hundreds of applications, and managing the right level of access in those applications is all part of that team. And then the IGA is going in and checking every 6 months, should this person still have this access. Digital risk management is policies and how to manage the risk of the organization, and like risk management tools and assessments and stuff like that. NIST assessments, the US group NIST publish a really good maturity framework, so you can assess an organization against like 120 odd characteristics and determine how good they are at cybersecurity. Data trust and privacy is about the governance and sort of regulations to do with cybersecurity. So we're talking about data breach legislation a lot at the moment, and what happens when an organization has a data breach. A lot of them haven't had a big data breach. A lot of big organizations haven't had a big data breach yet. So we go and help organizations do that. I've worked on a couple of those from the incident response sort of side, working out what data has been lost, and then the data trust and privacy team help with that notification. And where are you going to fit in the team? I want you to note that in this circle here are not tech skills. This is interpersonal relationship type skills, consulting type skills. We can help you learn some of these other technical skills, but if you can come in with a really good mindset, communication and thinking skills, time management skills, that's really the core of cyber and the core of a lot of the other teams, and what we need from you guys. So that is it. Thank you all. Cool. Any last minute questions? No? Great. Thank you all.